All right, we're here live for another episode of Dreamchasers. I'm very excited to have Lauren Padula on the show today. What's up, Lauren?
Hey, how are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Doing great, thank you.
Cool. Well, Lauren runs the November Project, which is a local workout group in San Diego. Super inspiring, and that's the point of this show is to have inspiring people who are setting massive goals for themselves to really make a difference in the world. And I think whenever I bring people on this podcast, it's always great to talk about how I met the people that are on it because this is such a small world. You never know where there's going to be a little link. And the way I met Lauren was hilarious. So we were at a event here called the Front Club that one of my buddies referred me to on the Bay, and we just finished up a yoga class. I saw Lauren. I was like, oh, here's this cute girl. I want to go talk to her. Maybe she's single. I don't know. She had this November Project shirt on, and I asked her about what that was all about. She told me, she's like, so are you coming to the next one next Wednesday? Because it's every Wednesday morning in PB at 6:29 a.m. And I was like, I don't know, trying to be the total non-committal guy who has other things to do. And she called me out on it at the moment. She's like, are you just being totally non-committal with what you're saying right now? Are you just scared to do this kind of thing? And at first I was like, oh my God, I can't believe she's saying this to me right now. And it's one of those things when someone challenges you, you can either go two ways. You can either go the direction of I'm not even going to talk to this person again, which is my first reaction was just like, oh my God, I can't believe she's saying this. And then luckily I had one of my good buddies with me that took me aside and say, hey, Lucas, look, she's doing a great thing. You need to get off your ego here and commit. And so time went on, and I kind of stewed on it a little bit, and I was like, Jesus, this is what's happening in my life right now. With a lot of things, I'm just not all in. And I hadn't realized over the last few months that I'd kind of gotten to this point. So, Lauren, I think this is the first time you're hearing this, which is probably amusing to you. I just went and I was like, God, I got to recommit myself to everything in my life because I've been so loosey-goosey the last few months. And so once I went to the November Project a few times, checked it out, I was like, I got to have Lauren on the show because she has a lot to share. So that's the story of how we met.
That's pretty funny. I didn't know like half of that story, so it's funny to hear it from your point of view.
Yeah, it's always good to hear the other perspective. So tell all of our viewers about the November Project, how you got involved with it, and what it kind of means to you.
Sure. So the November Project started in November of 2011 in Boston. And it was started by two guys who used to be collegiate crew athletes. And then, you graduate from college, you take a job in the corporate world, you kind of fall into your routine, and you start to realize pretty quickly that it's hard to stay in that level of shape when you don't have something like a team pushing you or competition pushing you. And then you also start to realize that it can be kind of expensive to have a gym membership or a personal trainer or to have the right equipment all the time. So in November of 2011, they committed to each other that they were going to meet each other at 6:30 in the morning, every morning, somewhere outdoors in Boston and get a workout in. And the idea was, that if we can make it through the month of November, because it's Boston and it's cold, then you can make it through sort of anything. And once you've gotten into that habit where you're meeting somebody and you're accountable to somebody else and you do it for an entire month, then the habit's easier to keep after that. So it just started as a project between the two of them, and then it sort of grew from there. And they told a few people about it, and those few people told a few people about it. And so in the past 3 years, it's grown from two guys in Boston to 16 cities in North America. So there's 15 in the United States and one in Canada. and we just hit almost 4,000 members showing up on a Wednesday at one time.
That's crazy. And how long ago was it started?
So it started in Boston in 2011.
2011.
And
Okay.
I had gone to school with the guys, so I knew of them. But I had already moved to San Diego by that point in time. And, social media, you start to see stuff all over the place, and you're like, what? Like you had that moment with me. What is this November Project thing?
Uh-huh.
So after finding out a little bit more about it from people that I knew in Boston that were doing it, about a year ago in September of 2013, I decided I wanted to bring it to San Diego.
Awesome. And talk about the experience you had starting the November project, because I don't know how many people that are watching read your blog. They definitely should. It's runalivesd.com, but she gives a really cool account of what she went through to start the November project. So talk about your experience in getting that whole thing going and kind of what you had to go through and
Sure.
where it's heading now.
So when I first decided I wanted to start November Project, I reached out to the two girls, Ashley and Jessie, that are the co-leaders with me now. And they were both very hesitant to jump on board because it is a big commitment. The best part of November Project is it's free, so it's a big time commitment for all of us to do. And they weren't quite sure whether they were ready to commit that. And as I was thinking about it more, at that point I was dating somebody and I had mentioned to them that I wanted to start it, and they kind of shot the idea down and said, it's going to take a lot of effort, a lot of time, you're not getting paid anything for it, and you're never going to grow it as big as they have in Boston. And that was kind of an eye-opening moment for me that, like, even the people that you think support you the most may not believe in what you believe in. And so I sat on it for a little while and, just kind of went, well, who cares? If I don't attempt to start it, who is going to attempt to start it in San Diego? And I know it can be amazing, and I know it can bring something big to this community, so I did it anyway. So that first week that we started pledging to become a tribe, there was 5 of us. So it was myself and Jessie and Ashley, the other co-leaders, one of their boyfriends, and one of our friends, and that was it. We were the only people that showed up that first Wednesday. To fast forward 13, 14 months, and we hit our biggest number of 145 people last week at one workout, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's an amazing scene because we go to this great place, and PB downtown's got a cool spot too, but we have a great view, and bringing friends out, especially I have buddies who I brought out to the workout. They had no idea what this was, and there have been 2 or 3 times, like after the workouts, where they'd be like, "Wait, this is free?" Like I told them multiple times it's free, and it's one of those things when you give free stuff away, like people appreciate that, and it's kind of a rare thing. I think that's what's so great about what you guys do is you give your time to help make other people's lives better.
Yeah, the idea is the big phrase we use is that we want to change the way people think about fitness. So when you think, oh, it's time for me to go get in shape, you oftentimes reach for your credit card or your wallet first, and then you go to your gym and you don't know anybody there, and you sign up, and maybe you go a couple times that first week or that first month, and then you usually fall off your routine because it's boring. Let's be honest. You go to the gym and you're on a treadmill looking at a television, or you get out, you sit at your desk all day at work, you drive your car to the gym, you get out of the car and you go sit on a stationary bicycle. And all you've done is sit all day long, and there's not a whole lot that's fun or exciting about that. And you're paying for it. And you'd think that if you're paying for something, you're going to be really dedicated to it. And a lot of times people aren't. The New Year's resolution crew is kind of the crew you always think of. Everybody is really hyped for a month or so, and it never lasts. All those goals you make at the beginning of the year, for most people, they don't really follow through with them. So our goal is to change the way you think about that. You don't have to reach for your credit card. You can literally just show up somewhere. Somebody's going to give you a workout that you'll be done with before you go to work in the morning, so you have 0 excuses on missing that workout, and it's going to be fun. You're going to show up with 50, 100, 150, if you're in Boston, 1,500 other people at the same time to sweat and to high five and to hug and, to do these fun games and activities that maybe you haven't played since you were a little kid and you forgot how hard they were. And all of a sudden your workout's over and you've been laughing the entire time and you're drenched in sweat and you're not really quite sure how it happened. And of course you're going to come back to that. That's way more fun than sitting on that stationary bicycle is.
Oh yeah. And where I work, I don't know if I've ever told you what we do. My company Visage creates these CEO advisory groups, and one of the words that they use for basically challenging CEOs and business owners is carefrontation. And I think of that in November Project because whenever you start your morning, it's like 6:30 a.m. and Lauren or Ashley will go, oh, hey, give 3 random people hugs. Your mind's like, no, like stop. And you have to break out of that, though. I mean, I think that's and you're high-fiving and you're in an atmosphere where you have to confront what you're feeling and just enjoy the ride. And I think that's a great part of the atmosphere too.
You know, a big part of that is our goal is to break down those social barriers. So when I'm telling people about November Project and telling them why they should show up or what it is about it, oftentimes the workout's the least important part. You know, the most important part is that you're going to get there, you're going to get to drop the F-bomb at 6:30 in the morning, which is kind of fun to do. And you're going to have to hug people. And like those are 2 things that in our world aren't really socially acceptable very many places. You know, you meet somebody for the first time and if you hug them, you're a little bit strange. And if somebody asks you if you're doing well and you say F yeah, you know, to your boss at 7 o'clock on a Monday morning, like that's not acceptable. But to go to a place where you can do that and everybody's doing that is kind of empowering and it's really fun. And so it gives you a chance to like knock down those walls that we have to build up in order to be successful, functioning members of our society. But when you break those down, now everybody's on the same page and everybody's immediate family and everybody's there to work with each other and push each other the same way. And so that's the fun part about it for me. You know, I always laugh. I'm like, I'm going to be wearing neon, I'm going to look ridiculous, and I'm going to say the F word probably 5 times before 7 o'clock in the morning. And that doesn't happen very many places, but it creates a certain type of atmosphere that I think draws people in, and it keeps people coming back for that, you know, because you don't get that everywhere.
Yeah, talk about that. You said showing up, right? That's one of the keys to success. It seems so simple. Like Woody Allen said that 75% of success is showing up. You're definitely a person who shows up when you say you're going to. Talk about, you know, mentally how you get yourself over the hurdle, because for a lot of people, commitment is not an easy thing, because once you put it out there, you're pretty much, at least for me, I got to go, because once I give my word to something, I'm not going to be one of those people who waffles. So mentally for you, how do you get yourself to keep showing up? And, you know, I'm sure there are days where you don't even want to do November Project. You wake up, you're tired, and you think, I could probably go back to sleep, etc. So, you know, what keeps you going?
Well, and that's a huge part of it too. You know, your story about how we met and me confronting you with your, you know, yeah, maybe I'll show up on Wednesday type of attitude is on purpose. You know, so if I get somebody to tell me, yeah, I'll be there Wednesday, you just dropped a verbal to me. And when you drop a verbal to me, like that is your word. And the funny part about it is if you break that word, I get to call you out on it. And I don't have to just call you out to your face. I can put it on Facebook. I can find a picture from your Facebook profile and I can make up a whole story about why you thought sleeping in was better than coming and working out with 100 of your friends, and I can put it up there for the world to see. So the verbal is important because it reinforces accountability. And I think that's the biggest part. You know, just showing up sounds really simple, but it's not. And especially if you're just showing up to something on your own. But if you have told somebody and you know that 100 people are waiting for you and that if you're not there, they're going to miss you, it makes just showing up a little bit easier. And for most people, like for me personally, getting my feet on the floor in the morning is how I do it. You know, I could lay in bed all day and look at that alarm and be like, oh, it's so early. I didn't get enough sleep. I'm sore from yesterday's workout. It's cold outside, which doesn't happen in San Diego, but you know, in the rest of the country, those are all excuses people can come up with. But the minute my feet are on the floor, it's like, all right, I'm getting up because I know they're all getting up too, and I want to see them and they want to see me, and we all need to be there for it to be the best experience for everybody. So the concept of just showing up is simple, but really, really, really hard to maintain. And that's kind of the point of it. It makes you hold your word. In a world where we can come up with excuses and rationalize everything, it's like, let's get rid of that. If you tell me you're going to be there, you just have to be there. There's not any other option. And once you do that for something like a workout, then it's a lot easier to do that for other things in your life. You know, if you start to get in the habit of, yeah, I'll be there, oh, something came up and I can't make it, it's a lot easier to do that for other aspects of your life as well. And then you find yourself backing out of other commitments.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Did you go through Landmark?
I have not yet, no.
Because the way you talk, you sound like someone who has done the program. Are you familiar at all?
Yeah, I'm a Lululemon Run ambassador, and Lululemon sends all their ambassadors through the Landmark program. I just haven't gone through it yet.
Okay. I thought that might be the case, but I think it's something that you'd really enjoy. And one of the things that even after going through that, and I heard your speaking was, you're not listening to your excuses. I think that is one of the freaking hardest things in the world is we make excuses in our minds. And sometimes we even realize that we're making excuses or making things up because we're just kind of zoned out, right? You got Facebook, you got Twitter, you got all this stuff just in your head, and before you know it, you've talked yourself out of doing something without even realizing it.
Mm-hmm. Or you've justified doing something that you know doesn't actually help you reach your end goal for the same reason. You know, it goes both ways when it comes to all of that input and all of that stimulus, and especially things like social media, which make you feel connected to people without actually being connected to people. It's really easy to think that you are doing something good and you're actually taking yourself away from it, or, you know, to commit to something on Facebook and then not show up's really easy to do, right? Because you never actually looked somebody in the eye and said, hey, I'm going to be there and see you. So the world we live in makes it really easy to make excuses and to rationalize things and to justify, you know, not holding your word on certain things. And so part of what makes what we do special is, like, we take that away. It's about the real human interaction. So if you tell me you're coming, I expect to actually see you and to be able to give you that hug and that high five. And that makes it a little harder to walk away from.
Absolutely. It's so funny because I was just listening. I don't know if you know who Darren Hardy is. Darren Hardy edits Success Magazine, and he was talking about Facebook and how it's just created this total mind mess because we're all addicted to, like, when someone likes our post or when someone comments, it gives us that little momentary high and it keeps us coming back. And it's because, ultimately we want to connect with other people, and Facebook has found a way, Twitter, etc., has found a way to kind of get into that. And I think for successful people, and this is something I just learned the other day, is you have to eliminate those distractions and just focus on making yourself better. Because if you're so caught up in, like, trying to please other people, you're not doing enough to piss people, to make a difference. Because ultimately, to make a difference, you're going to be pissing some people off, and you can't be pleasing everyone. Otherwise, you just drive yourself nuts.
You have to make people uncomfortable. You know, you have to push people's comfort zones, and you have to push the box that we've all put ourselves in and that society puts us in and we put each other in order to grow at all. So if you're not pushing that comfort zone, whether it's your own or other people's, then yeah, you're not doing enough to make a difference. You're not going to make any real change. If you keep everybody complacent and happy, there's no growth.
Yeah, it's tough, especially when you have good friends or people you work with. So, for example, you see a friend who is doing all right at work. They could be getting better results if they showed up earlier, or they're just not giving it their all. Part of you knows, especially if you're a leader, you gotta have the conversation where you're like, hey man, you gotta step it up, or you're losing out on this opportunity. And then the other part of you is just like, I don't want to have that conversation, because you don't want to lose their friendship. You don't want to create a problem, but by not being real with people, you're creating even more of a problem, because they're thinking everything is fine until you call them to the carpet, if you will.
Mhm. And it gets to a point where, if you always let people stay at their status quo, eventually it brings you down and it brings the people who are also trying to push those boundaries down as well. And I think one of the important things to remember that you might piss some people off or you might make some people uncomfortable, but that decision or that choice or that conversation you have might also inspire somebody to try to reach for something bigger or to try to make a bigger change or to set a bigger goal than they thought they could because people have been telling them no or you can't or you shouldn't. And if you can get one other person to step outside their comfort zone, then you've done more than your job. If you don't inspire people around you to try to be greater too, then it doesn't matter if you're trying on your own to be a better and better person and to make more difference in the world. You can't do everything on your own. You have to inspire other people to do the same thing too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of goes to the point you got to surround yourself with like-minded people who are really pushing to be successful, because if you're not, and this is part of what we do for my company in these peer groups, if you're not able to relate to the people that you're going to, so you're an entrepreneur and you're hanging out with a bunch of people who just party all the time, you're not going to be able to get done what you need to. And if you're hanging out around with other ambitious entrepreneurs, work groups, etc., you're going to be a lot more successful because you're around like-minded people. And I think that, for me, I don't know about for you, is one of the hardest challenges is just sticking with no, because a lot of people will want to keep you where you're at. They don't realize they're doing it. They don't mean to. They're being your friends. So they're like, hey, come out with us. We'll have a good time. And in the back of your mind, you're going, I just can't do this anymore. This lifestyle is killing me. And there comes a point where you just gotta be like, look, I'm either gonna just go crash on my parents' couch, or whatever alternative you have to take to kind of get out of that situation, because it's so easy to just be like, whatever, I'll go out, or I'll get off it, if you will.
Yeah, and they say that you're an average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So when you think about the people you spend your most time with, if you are an average of those 5 people, it's going to make you pick and choose the people that you choose to be around a little more carefully. Um, and that is really important, and having people around you that push you as you push them is what's going to make you grow more as a person. And I think that's one of the challenges from going to maybe, college to post college to getting a little bit further in your career and growing up a little bit more, is learning where you need to cut those ties and being okay with cutting some of those ties to the people that aren't helping you progress to where you want to be. And that's hard when they're people, might be people you've been friends with for a long time, or it might be a job you've worked at for a while that's just not giving you what you need. And to be able to look at that and to objectively say, is this helping me get where I need to go? It sounds really selfish, but it also, pushing you is going to help you push other people, and it's going to help you change other people's lives. And so you have to be able to look at the things that aren't serving you anymore and be able to say, no, that's not something I need in my life. And that's part of life. But I think people have a really hard time with that. Looking at somebody they've been friends with for 10 years and saying, this person's not going down the same path I am. They're not going to help me be a better person or the person I want to be. And kind of cutting those close ties with that person can be really challenging to do. But if you don't do it, you risk them holding you back and you holding them back as well.
Absolutely. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. What I have started doing is I've been very honest with my friends about what is going on. I'm like, look, I'm on the road to be successful right now. You can either get on the bus or get off. When I tell you I'm not doing something, and I feel like you're trying to force me into something I don't want to do, I'm going to call you on it, and this is going to be our friendship. Otherwise, I'm going to move on, because I don't have time for people who are, I don't want to say bringing me down, because that's not always the case. They're just trying to have fun, but who are on the same wavelength. If you don't get that, then on to the next one, I guess, is kind of the way you have to look at it. But that's the toughest part of the whole thing. It's like you said with the friend you've had for 10 years. that's a tough conversation because you have to look them and you have to be deliberate. I think that's something I wish I had known about in college, and kind of because they need to teach that in school. I think because they say, oh, set goals and yada yada yada. That's all great, but you don't really get it. Like until you're deliberate with what you do and say and who you bring in your life, you're just on autopilot.
And the thing that makes people uncomfortable is when you realize that those people that you have to have those conversations with, like you said, they're not purposefully trying to hold you down, but a lot of times their response to you or their reaction to you or what they're trying to do is because of their own issues, because they don't know what they want or they don't have goals set or their motivation level is not where they want it to be, and it makes them really uncomfortable to watch somebody else strive for something that's so big that they can't even comprehend it. And that's
Yeah,
something that when you realize that, it's really freeing because you can be like, oh, it's not about, when they doubt my goal, it's not because they're doubting the goal I'm setting, it's because they're uncomfortable with where they're at in their lives. And you can keep that faith and that, strength in your own goals and your path and know that what they're saying to you or what they're doing doesn't have anything to do with you at the root. It has everything to do with them.
absolutely. I think that's something huge insight right there. It's not about you. And I'm in sales, so I talk to a lot of CEOs, business owners, executives, and I will hear no. And for me, it was hard at first because you take no personally, and in success in general, you have to learn to kind of take no, don't take no personally. I went to a TED Talk last week, and that was one of the big takeaways that I got reminded about again is you just it's not about you. And once you learn that, it's freeing, like you said, because then you realize like this isn't about me. It's about them, and I have to let them be them. No matter how hard that may be for me, it might free them later on down the road because they realize, hey, Lucas was really onto something here, and now I see it. Maybe a week later, who knows? Because some people just don't want to get it or take a while.
And that's why it's so important to surround yourself with the right people because you do you do need to have people that do understand what your goals are and do see your vision because you can't go blindly into something and your ideas and your goals may not make sense and they might not be perfect and they do need revision as you go along. So you have to be able, it comes down to kind of reading people. You have to be able to know who's going to give you real feedback and good feedback and sometimes tell you no because you need to be told no so that you can refocus and reevaluate, but being able to differentiate those people from the people who are telling you no because they just don't see what you see is something that's really hard to learn, especially because a lot of times the people who are the ones that you think are the ones that are going to support you and the ones that you think are the ones that are going to have your back and be all for what you are trying to shoot for aren't those people, and it's the people that you may not know as well but you can see in them that they have the same drive or they have the same ambition that you do that are going to be the good ones to surround yourself with. And so being able to differentiate that and not always think, oh, my best friends are going to be the best people to go to for advice on these things. It's not true. And that's a hard lesson to learn, I think, for a lot of people and a lesson that maybe a lot of people don't learn.
Yeah, well, especially your parents too are another one
Hmm.
in that party because whenever you have challenges, it's very easy, and your parents just naturally want you to be safe. So they're gonna give you advice on how to keep your current status quo, which is great. If you're happy with where you're at, but if you're trying to achieve something big, you almost have to shut that out and learn to just trust yourself, which is an underrated thing because a lot of people don't get that you have to like spend time building trust with yourself.
Definitely. And you have to know that you are going to fail and it's okay to fail. And as long as you learn from your failures, that's what's going to help you achieve the bigger dreams and the bigger goals and the bigger picture that you set for yourself is you're going to have road bumps. roadblocks along the way. You're going to hit things that don't work out the way you think it's supposed to. And like you said, if you trust yourself, you know that you can bounce back from that, and you're going to learn from that and take what you learn and continue to build and grow. But you have to have that trust in yourself and knowledge about who you are as a person and what you really want out of life in order for that to happen, or else you hit that first roadblock. And I think a lot of people stop at that point in time. The first time something goes wrong, or the first time something doesn't go according to plan, they're like, oh, well, it wasn't meant to be. It was a nice idea. Glad I tried, but I'm done. And that's what stops, I think, a lot of people from setting really big, scary goals. Is like, yeah, there's a high chance that you might not hit it, but that's the point of setting a really big goal. And as long as you know along the way that you might not get there the way you think you're going to, that's okay. As long as you trust that as you put in the work and you do what you need to do, you will eventually get to where you want it to be.
Have you ever listened to Will Smith before talk about motivation?
He has a lot of good things to say.
He is a badass, and he says kind of like what you were just talking about with, we already have everything we need to be successful. It's just kind of like learning who we're going to be, and then just having the faith to kind of follow our hearts, because that's ultimately going to lead us to where we want to be, rather than listen to everyone else. And that is something that is not illustrated enough in our culture.
Well, no, because I think our culture sets a standard. Like there's a picture of what successful is. There's a picture that successful is wealthy, and successful is business oriented, and successful is driving a certain car and living in a certain neighborhood and having a certain number of kids and all of that. And that's not everybody's picture of success. So I think when people strive for that, and then a lot of times hit that and go, well, I'm not happy, or I haven't done anything with my life. And so when you have goals that are different than that, having that trust to know that, that is my version of success, and it's not what society maybe is telling me is successful, is okay. The number of times a day I get asked by people, well, what do you mean you don't get paid for what you do at November Project? Well, getting paid isn't the end goal, right? For a lot of people, getting paid is the end goal. For us, it's not. So just because we don't get paid at November Project doesn't mean we're not successful at what we're doing there. And I think that we get this picture in our head of what success is supposed to mean, and sometimes it's hard to realize that your vision is different than that, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. As I'm sitting here feeling around with my mic, I totally think that's a great point. Just give me a second. I thought my computer battery would last. This is also one of the keys to success: adaptability. Because when stuff's going to happen, when you're trying to, like I'm filming this live right now, and I didn't think to move my bike, so now I got to do that.
It is important to be adaptable. You can't control your environment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Technology is not your friend today, Lucas. It's okay.
That's okay. You learn to just live with it. I don't really get bothered by what's going on right now, because I think we're delivering enough great content that I'm happy and you're happy, and that's all that matters. And I'm sure people are gonna laugh at this anyways. So in one of my other podcasts, we had like an awkward pause, and we just kind of played off it, and it ended up being one of the best parts of the podcast, because obviously you have to adapt to the situation. And I kind of called it as it was. I was like, this is kind of awkward. And then we laughed, and like the conversation got better because of that, which is hilarious.
Well, you're interacting with another human. You can't predict how they're going to react to things.
Absolutely. And I think that kind of goes back to the judgment thing, because there are so many times where I've like thought something about someone and maybe not talked to them, maybe not even had a conversation. You just kind of look and just, this is what it is, and then you go talk to that person in a conversation, like, wow, they were completely different than I thought they were going to be. kind of like this person now. Like it totally changes your perspective.
For sure. You know, they say you can't judge a book by its cover, and as cliche as it is, it's 100% true.
Yeah, exactly. So, what is your goal with the November project? Do you want to keep growing it in San Diego to a certain point, or like what's kind of your I guess end goal for November project?
So as a whole, you know, the idea is that you could travel for work on Wednesday to, I don't know, pick a city, any city, Portland, Oregon, and know that in Portland on Wednesday morning at 6:30 somewhere you were going to find a group like you have in San Diego, and you'd be able to go and you'd have immediate friends and you'd have a free workout that was going to kick your ass and that was going to send you on your day smiling. So the goal is to spread not only across the United States, but across the world, so that no matter where you go, there's these free communities that are building not only fitness, but are building that personal connection between people that maybe otherwise wouldn't be brought together, sprouting up all over the place. As far as San Diego specifically is concerned, I would say probably our biggest goal is to add a Friday at some point in time. You know, we have a Monday, we have a Wednesday. At some point, we'll add a Friday and kind of round out the week that way. We don't have a numbers goal. We've been pushing recruiting for the past couple of months just to, you know, like you said, you get stagnant and the same thing can happen with a group. So it's like, oh yeah, we forget that we should still be telling people about this because we love the group we have and we get so excited with the people we already have showing up that sometimes you forget that, like, if I bring more people to the party's going to be better. So we've been pushing recruiting a little bit for the past few months, but we don't have like a specific number goal. There's not a financial goal for us. The goal is to keep growing the community, you know, so we want more good people showing up. It's not about more people, it's about more good, positive, high energy people that want to be there and want to make a change in their life and in their community.
Absolutely. I think what is important, especially when you're in a setting like that, you need those kinds of people. Otherwise, the group just gets stagnant. And what it comes down to, especially with something like what you're doing, or maybe just in general success, is sometimes you forget how far you have come. So take, for example, November Project, right? We just got to this like 145 person goal, which is incredible. And if you were to be there for like another month or two and you're not grounded in, you know, just doing it for fun, it's very easy to go, this is sucking, what is happening? We were growing so fast. And, you know, you kind of forget to celebrate the little stuff, like, oh my God, like, look how far we've come in the first place. Like this time last year, we didn't have 100 people. It's just one of the, you have to constantly remind yourself of your successes, especially if you're a driven person. Because if you're driven, it's very easy to just do something and not give yourself credit for you, because it sort of becomes natural after a while. So you have to almost force yourself at some degree when you start to celebrate.
Definitely, and I think when you show up every week, you know, twice a week to something, those small gains you don't notice because you don't see them. You don't see the difference from Monday to Wednesday to Monday to Wednesday. You don't see it until you look at December versus last December. So it's important to take that step back from the little current situation you're in and be able to see, where was I before? And then you can look at where you're at now and go, oh, wow, I really have done a lot, and it is possible to do a lot in a year. You know, and in the grand scheme of things, a year is not a long time. So being able to take a look back and be like, wow, I got so much faster, or look at the number of friends that I have now that I didn't even know a year ago because of this fitness group that I'm going to, and being able to take that step back and look at it and go, when you take that and you turn that into imagine where I can be a year from now, that's when it becomes really powerful and a really good motivator to continue to put in the work and to continue to push yourself to achieve something even bigger.
Yeah, that is an awesome insight to have. Lauren, kind of starting to wrap up here, but if there was anything you could share with all the dreamers out there that you wish you would have known that you know now, what would it be?
I would say the biggest thing for me is I wish I would have known that even if I didn't have everybody's thumbs up at the beginning of an idea, that it would turn out great in the end. I think I spent a lot of time wanting approval for things before I attempted them. And I've learned, especially in the past year, that sometimes it's better to attempt them and to see what you can do. And if you get approval from people and praise from people afterwards, it's great. But if you wait for everybody to give you that go ahead before you do something, you're never going to get anything accomplished.
All the entrepreneurs just went, hallelujah. And that's great. Well, this has been awesome. One of my favorite parts is I always learn so much from the people who come on my show. I'm lucky to have a platform like this where I can have people like yourself on the show. So thanks for taking the time to come on, and I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday.
That is a verbal. So now you have to show up next Wednesday.
I'm going to.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lucas. This was a blast.
All right, you got it. Have a good one.
You too. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.